Yo, 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 this your boy, the real McCoy, coming at you, talking about the 2014 Major League Baseball trade deadline. The uh, the deadline was the 31st of July at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to be exact. We had some good trades, some good impactful trades. Um, these started off early that morning on the day of the deadline, the 31st. Was there was a somewhat surprising trade between the Boston Red Sox and Oakland A's, but what made the trade deadline this year more surprising than anything else was that teams were actually trading big league players for other big league players, and they weren't trading them for just prospects. You can trade a solid player on your team, pretty good player, productive player to another team, and teams are usually getting prospects in return, which is that's fine because they're prospects, which means that there's potential there. But sometimes fans get a little frustrated because you're trading for a prospect. What's a prospect? Well, a prospect is a prospect. You don't know what you're gonna get. He's still down in the minor leagues, single A, double A, triple A, just coming out of college, high school, and things like that. It's not like major league. I mean, it's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL. When you get drafted, you go to the D League, anything like that. You go to that team that drafted you, that picked you, unless there's a draft day trade or you get traded before the season starts, something of that nature. But in Major League Baseball, you got to go through what they call, quote unquote, the farm system. You got to start off down in the minor leagues and work your way up and prove to these teams that you deserve to be on the big league roster. That may take 2-3 years. So when you trade a proven guy in the big leagues for a prospect, I mean, it happens so much now. Fans they're just used to it. That's so common. They're just used to it. But it can be frustrating because this prospect, he may never pan out. He may struggle down in the minors, and they never even pull him up. Or once he does pull up, he's not productive at the big league level at all. And he's like, well, we traded away a pretty good player for this prospect who never panned out. Or this prospect doesn't get called up to the big leagues 2, 3 years, 4 years later down the road. And it's like, who is this guy? Oh yeah, we traded for him 4 years ago. you know. And it's human nature to be impatient. You want your fans, you want your team to succeed right now, right then, that year, things like that. But it's just like the draft when you make a trade. You don't know 100% what you're gonna get when you get a prospect. And that's what they are. They're a prospect. So, but it's a lot of prospects. They pan out as well. So I mean, it's a gamble. You don't know. Just like when you draft a player, you don't know what you're gonna get. When the Chicago Bulls drafted Michael Jordan, number 3 overall, they weren't expecting him to pan out to be the greatest basketball player ever. Nobody saw that coming. So you just never know. But this year teams were actually trading big league players for other big league players, which means not rare, just oh my god, so shocking, totally uncommon, never happened before. But the trend over the last decade was that teams were trading for prospects. So that was good to see that they were actually trading for other proven big league guys who've proven themselves at the major league level, which is always a good thing. But that morning of the deadline, the Boston Red Sox, it was like about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe noon, something like that on the East Coast. So it was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. But it happened. It was pretty early in the morning. The news broke, and the Red Sox had traded outfielder Johnny Gomes and their ace, basically, John Lester, to the Oakland Athletics, for their young power bat your necessities. See, the Red Sox basically made that trade because they needed some offensive production from the outfield positions, left field, center field, right field. They weren't really getting anything offensively in the outfield. You had Jacoby Ellsbury left via free agency. He signed with the New York Yankees. Shane Victorino, he started off the season hurt, and he's injury prone. He's been known to get hurt in the past. That's what his track record says. He's not a home run type bopper. He's not gonna, at this point in his career, he's not gonna kill you with average or anything like that. And you got Jackie Bradley Jr. He came up through the system, worked his way up playing center field. He plays a great center field, but his bat in the batter's box, he needs work. And so that's why the Red Sox decided to go ahead and make that trade, which is understandable. But of course, the big name the big name out of this blockbuster trade was, of course, John Lester, the ace or the best pitcher, if you don't know what that means, the best pitcher from that rotation, it's a 5-man rotation, things like that. John Lester, and he was the big name. Now the trade, we kind of seen it coming. The trade deadline was on a Thursday, I believe. Yes, Thursday, the 31st, and his last start before the trade deadline was that Sunday. That was that prior Sunday, and he was scratched from that start. And once that happened, it kind of just everyone kind of knew, he's about to be traded. It was just a matter of when and to who, to what team, and what were the Red Sox what were they going to get in return? Now the Boston Red Sox fans, did they want to see him leave? Of course not. No, they did not want to see him leave. And if you look at his productivity throughout his stay in Boston, you'll definitely understand why. He was. If you look at just last year, 2013, who won the World Series last year? The Boston Red Sox. So they're coming off a World Series championship year, hanging up the banner and all those good things, putting a trophy in a trophy case. They just won it last year, so Red Sox fans didn't forget that. This guy helped us win the World. A big key component, big factor, and the reason why they won it last year. So it's not like they wanted to get rid of this guy. We don't want him here. Fans, they will, they'll let you know. Fans will let organizations know how they feel about, especially now with the social media and things like that. They'll let organizations know, but they showed no issue with John Lester. He never had any off the field anything like that, off the field issues. So he was very key to their success. And he was also on the 2007 World Series team. The Boston Red Sox won the World Series 2007. They swept the Colorado Rockies, beat them in 4, clean sweep. And he pitched one game in that World Series. He pitched 5 in the third innings. Gave up no runs, and it wasn't a huge role, huge factor. But he did what he needed to do for a young pitcher. First time in the World Series, pitched very well. He pitched very well. And you look at what he did just last year in the World Series. He against the St. Louis Cardinals, arguably the most, as far as 1 through 9 lineup, offensive batting lineup. The Cardinals last year were arguably the most dominant. The best lineup. It wasn't power top heavy. Well, guys were hitting 2 or 3 guys in 30 home runs, driving in 115 RBI, but 1 through 9, every single guy, you had a productive at bat. And as a pitcher, 1 through 9, any guy could hurt you. So, but he pitched, he dominated those guys. He went 2-0 against the Cardinals. He had a 0.59. His ERA was under 1. ERA was he pitched 15 in the third innings, 15 strikeouts, which is 8.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Basically, almost 1 strikeout per inning. If he's striking guys out, you're not allowing them to put the ball in play. if you put the ball in play, you have errors and other things like that. But if you're striking guys out, I mean, it's tough to score when you when you strike out. I mean, he pitched very well against the Cardinals last year. Excellent, put up great numbers, And then if you look at his, career numbers, you can understand why they weren't happy to see. The Red Sox fans understood it. It's a business, like they say in the Godfather movie. It's not personal, it's business. It's a business, and they understood it. They weren't happy about it. I mean, he's been in the big leagues 9 seasons. I mean, this year, 2014, includes 9 years in the big leagues. Over 1,500 innings pitched in his career. 529 walks, almost 1,400 strikeouts, 1,386 Ks, punch outs, however you want to call it, with a 3.64 ERA. ERA is earned run average. That's the key stats, the key stat that most prospects or GMs. That's what they look at when they evaluate a pitcher. The earned run average. How many runs on average are you giving up a game? Earned run average a game. And 3.64, that's just above average, 3.64. I mean, it's hard to get down the low threes and under a 3 career average. That's tough. It's the big leagues. You got big league hitters, especially, his whole career has been the AL East. The AL East throughout the years has been known as the best division in baseball. Some people say it's the best division in all of sports who have divisions, so it's been very competitive throughout the years, but he's posted a 3.64 ERA, which is above average, for a starting pitcher. He's a 3-time All-Star, 2010, 2011, and he was an All-Star this year as well, 2014. It was a few weeks ago up in Target Field, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Twin City area, Minneapolis and St. Paul. He was All-Star that year. In 2010, he finished 4th in the Cy Young. The Cy Young is the award for the best pitcher in each league, American League and National League. It's John Lester. He finished 4th that year. Behind number 3 was CC Sabathia for the New York Yankees. Number 2 was David Price for the Tampa Bay Rays, and the guy that won it that year was King Felix Hernandez for the Seattle Mariners. So, I mean, very productive at bat, very productive guy. The team and the Red Sox fans they didn't want to see him leave, but it's not personal, it's business, He pitched very well against the Cardinals just last year against the offense. I believe the Cardinals offense with the runners in scoring position, a guy on second or third base, I think as a team they were batting like 330, 320, 340, something like that. It was just astronomical, crazy, putting up huge numbers with runners in scoring position. But see, the 2 games he pitched against them, his ERA was 0.59. Wow, that's very good, very well. And then of course he showed up when the lights were the brightest. That's when John Lester pitched his best. With the excuse me. If you look at his postseason numbers, He's had 11 starts with a 6-4 record, 2.11 ERA, 76 2/3 innings pitched, 21 base on balls or walks, if you know it better that way, 68 punch outs. I mean, very productive. The postseason is where guys make their name, make their mark. Players become legendary, and that's when you really do it in the postseason. And then the biggest of all the stage, the brightest of all the bright lights, is the World Series. In the World Series, he has a 3-0 record, 3-0 with a 0.43 ERA. I mean, ERA is below 0.5 in the World Series. I mean, that's the World Series. That's it. You don't get no bigger and brighter than that. And he's putting up great numbers: 21 innings pitched, 18 punch outs. I mean, he plays his best in the postseason. I mean, his numbers say that, but the main reason, the main reason why they really had to trade him, John Lester, he wanted a long-term deal. He wanted I don't know exactly how many years he won it, but he won a long-term deal. But the Boston Red Sox, as an organization, their track record says that they're known for not giving pitchers or not signing pitchers to long-term deals once they reach the age of 30. Even though John Lester's coming off a pretty good year, All-Star this year, but helping win the World Series. Arguably could have been the MVP last year in the World Series. But David Ortiz won that. I couldn't argue with that. He was very productive. He plays his best in the postseason as well. Big Poppy, but yeah, he turned John Lester turned 30 back in January, I believe. It was January. He turned 30, and they're known for not re-signing or signing pitchers at the age of 30 to 5, 6, 7 year deals. So I don't know exactly how many years John Lester was looking for, but apparently it was too many. So, I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, that's how that franchise works. Everybody's different, Some people agree, some disagree. That's just how they work. But I mean, over the last decade, they've won 3 World Series titles. 2004, I believe, and they were down to the New York Yankees in the ALCS American League Championship Series, 3-0, on the verge of getting swept, and they came back and won 4 straight, won it in 7 games, and won in 2004, 2007, and just last year in 2013. So I guess if it's successful, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So but once he reached the age of 30, they tend to, if the guy's valuable and they can get some assets in return, they tend to lean that way and make a trade for the guy. That's how they do it. I mean, he's not injury prone. He's very durable. No Tommy John surgery. No rotator cuff issues. No UCL, anything like that. No injuries, anything like that. You know what I mean? So it wasn't anything like that. But I guess it was just the age. That's how the Red Sox roll, and they decided to make a move. And they decided to trade him to the Oakland A's, which was kind of surprising because the Oakland A's at that time, at the current time, they have the best record, not just in the American League. They have the best record in all of Major League Baseball. The Angels, LA Angels, or Anaheim Angels, they're right there hunting them down, chasing them down. But they have the best record in baseball, and the guy that they traded, Yoenis Cespedes, a young power bat in their lineup, and it's just that was the surprising part of that trade. Now, the fact Lester was traded, we kind of saw that coming, but who they got in return? Like the A's let him go. Oh man, he's coming off winning on home run derby the last 2 years. Very impressive, very very impressive. I mean, but I guess they felt like. I mean, I'm an old school guy. Defense win championships. They felt like pitching and defense is going to help us get over the hump this year. They lost the last 2 seasons. They've lost in the ALDS American League Division Series to the Detroit Tigers, and they felt like to get over that hump, we needed better pitch. And John Lester is a good pitcher, solid pitcher, and he pitches great in the postseason. So sometimes to get where you want to go, you may have to add by way of subtract. Addition by way of subtraction. That's what they believe they did. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to let go. He's only been in the big. His rookie year was 2012. He doesn't have 6-7 year track record. But the guy's productive. He's an RBI guy. He's not a big batting average type of guy. The main reason why the Oakland A's decided to trade him because his OBP, on base percentage, was kind of low, and they felt that he wasn't very disciplined at the plate in the batter's box, and they felt that they could move on from him. And they got other guys, Josh Donaldson, Josh Reddick, wait for Coco Chris to get healthy. They also traded for Sam Fold from the Minnesota Twins. So they feel like they got Johnny Gomes, he's back in Oakland. And they feel like between the mix of all those guys, they can equal out or cancel out Yoenis Cespedes' production. But I tend to kind of disagree a little bit, but it's understandable. I mean, you need pitching, in the Oakland A's will be in the postseason. I believe they're going to win the American League West, but if not, they're going to be a wild card team at the minimum. And you need pitching. You definitely need pitching to get into the postseason and to go deep and go on in the postseason and win that chip. So that's what they decided to go with. I mean, Giannis Cespedes. I mean, he's not a great player, but there's potential. There is. I mean, if you look at his in 2012, his rookie year, he was second in MVP. A lot of people tend to forget that he was second to Mike Trout. I mean, Mike Trout, most people say what I would say, the best player in all of Major League Baseball right now. He finished second to Mike Trout his rookie year. For rookie year, and he finished 10th MVP his rookie year. With a 292 batting average, 356 on base percentage, 23 home runs, 82 RBI, 16 stolen bases as a rookie. And those are if it wasn't for Mike Trout, he would have been rookie of the year, no doubt. But everybody know who Mike Trout is. He's rare, a rare talent. He's doing this thing. The team is actually successful this year, and that could get him over the hump as far as winning the MVP. Miguel Cabrera Miggy for the Tigers is beating him out the last few years, and you can't really argue with that. You're winning the Triple Crown and putting up the hit for power and also for average. So, but like I say, if it wasn't for him, Cespedes would have run MVP. His not MVP. Well, he's 10th MVP his rookie year, but he would have run rookie of the year. But their main concern with him was that they felt like he wasn't disciplined at the plate. His on base percentage, career wise, 318, which is it could be better. it definitely could be. Definitely could be a whole lot better, and that was the reason why they felt like they could move on from him. And get guys like say like I mentioned before, Johnny Gomes, get Coco Crisp healthy in center field, Sam Fold, Josh Reddick over in right field, and they believe that they can get that between all of those guys. They can get that in return, that offensive production. But I say all of those guys they're not going to give the power back that Yoenis Cespedes provided. He had, when he got traded, 17 home runs, just under 70 RBI. He's a power RBI guy. That's what he does. He's not going to hurt you for average during the regular. But if you look at his, he plays even better in the postseason. In the postseason, the last 2 years they lost to the Tigers against arguably the best rotation in all of Major League Baseball, which just got even better with the trades. We're going to talk about that. But in the postseason, Giannis Cespedes, 350 batting average, 395, almost a 400 on base percentage. He's got a home run and 6 RBIs. So in a big stage, he really shows how good he is. So are they going to miss that bat in the postseason? I believe so. I definitely believe so. I don't know if it's gonna Giannis Cespedes is the reason why they win or lose the World Series or win or lose the AL pennant and and win the American League and get to the World Series. But if the cleanup spot, the fourth hitter in the lineup comes up to play in Game 7 of the ALCS or Game 7 of the World Series or something like that, and you need that extra base hit or that home run to tie up the game or to win it, walk off win, bottom of the ninth, something like that. Because the American League did win the All-Star game, so whichever team wins the AL pennant, they will have home field. But that's just the stupidest idea that Buzz City. I mean, I don't get that. How can an exhibition game factor in any kind of way in the World Series, postseason, but especially the World Series? But that's a different conversation, for a different day. But if his spot comes up the bat and you need that key extra base hit or possibly a home run, is Johnny Gomes is going to do that? Sam Fold, something like that. I mean, I don't see it. I definitely don't. Johnny Gomes, maybe he had a big home run in the World Series last year, but I just I don't see it. I think that the trade may hurt him, but I can definitely understand why they did it, because you need pitching. You need pitching in the postseason, no doubt, and John Lester does provide that. But it's in the day you gotta score runs as well. But you gotta score some runs, and that's what Cespedes does. He drives in runs. He was 28, 29, I believe. Still he's not in his early 20s, but still fairly young. Baseball is one of those type of sports. It's not as physical as football and basketball. That's why you see guys like Derek Jeter playing in their 40s and late 30s and things like that. The sport is just not as physical. So I personally thought he was a future cornerstone, future centerpiece for the franchise, face of the franchise. But they decided a little differently in part ways. Not personal, it's business. But yeah. So I mean, at the trade deadline, you have buyers and sellers, and surprisingly, shockingly, not shockingly, but which was good, that the Red Sox, they were actually buyers and sellers at the same time, which was impressive, because you don't see a lot of teams do that. Buyers. What I mean by buyers and sellers, that buyers are the teams who they feel they're right on the cusp, right on the brink of winning their division or winning because you used to have, until 2012, I believe, you used to have the 3 division winners, East, Central, and West, and 1 wild card team. But see, the good, I guess, to negate the whole all-star team winner will have the home field advantage. To negate that, he came up with a good idea with adding the additional wild card, which I like. I definitely like that. It puts a lot more teams into play with that second wild card spot. But teams who feel like they're in the hunt to win the wild card spot or winning the division, they may be like 4.5 games back of the division or 5 games back of the wild card, and they feel we need that key piece, that key relief pitcher, that key bat in the lineup, a leadoff guy, a pitcher in not necessarily an ace, just a guy who's proven to be a legitimate starter, number 4 or number 5 in the 5-man rotation. We need that key piece to get us over the hump and possibly make some noise in the postseason. Once you get in the postseason, anything is possible. Anything. Can you imagine somebody like Michael Jordan or LeBron James tearing an ACL in the finals? With the Chicago Bulls have 6 championships. I bring up Michael Jordan because I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. But the Bulls have 6 championships. I mean, no, of course not. But anything could happen. You just got to get there. So teams, when I say buyers, they buy what other teams are selling. And what I mean, not necessarily, some trades do involve cash, but they're buying the prospects in return. Not the prospects, I mean the players. And other teams who are the sellers are the ones who, as a GM or a president or whoever's job it is to put together a roster for that particular team, they look at their roster and their team, look at where they are in the standings record-wise. Okay, we're 10 games back in the division, 12 games back in a wild card, or vice versa, whatever the case may be. You got to look at your team as honest as you possibly can and just look at it like, you know what, we're not going to get it done this year, but we do have 2 or 3 quality pieces here. 2 good, everyday players, as far as guys who play in the field every day, and a good starting pitcher. And they sell those good key pieces, or they trade them away by sale to teams who are right there, like I say, on the cusp, on the brink, are right there of winning the division or wild card. And that's what I mean by, the buyers or the sellers. And the Red Sox, they kind of, and if you break it down, they were kind of both. I mean, they sold away they won the World Series last year, and they traded away their the starting pitching that won it for them. John Lester, and they traded John Lackey to the St. Louis Cardinals and Jake Peavy to the San Francisco Giants. But what they got in return offensively, because they were they were dominant last year on offense, and this year it's their Achilles heel. So that's why I say they were buyers and sellers, because they sold away what helped them win the World Series last year, but they got in return what their main weakness is this year. And because the AL East isn't as strong this year, and there's so much parity in all of baseball, and especially the American League, you can't count them out. I mean, the pitching, the rotation, is gonna need some help, but offensively, they're gonna be more exciting and more fun to watch. So Giannis Cespedes, and they traded John Lackey to the Cardinals for Joe Kelly, a very good young pitcher, good arm, pitched very well and against the Red Sox last year in the World Series. And they got Alan Craig. Alan Craig was very productive last year for the St. Louis Cardinals. Then he had a foot injury, and this year, I don't know if it's health, but he's just not as productive. And I believe that's the reason why the Cardinals decided to go ahead and part ways with him. But if you get him to be productive, Yoenis Cespedes, Red Sox already have David Ortiz and Dustin Pedroia. They have capable guys with World Series experience, World Series championships. I mean, they put together a pretty good team for 2015 and for this year. And for this year, they put together a good offensive team. They're gonna need some pitching help, but Joe Kelly does help that. From the Cardinals, Joe Kelly does. He's on 25. His fastball is in consistent range of 95, 96 miles per hour. I mean, so big live power arm. And he pitched well against the Red Sox last year in the World Series. So they saw enough of him to know we want him as part of the deal. But yeah, so I mean, they were buyers and sellers, and they put together a pretty good team for this year and next year as well. So, but that trade is what kicked off the trade deadline. The other big pitcher that was part of the trade was David Price, the ace for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was, as far as David Price getting traded, it wasn't if he was going to get traded. It was just a matter of when was it going to be. In the off season of coming into this year, in 2013, was it going to be the beginning of the season? Was it going to be the trade deadline? Was it going to be end of this? It was just a matter of time. And he got traded a little bit later on in the day to the Detroit Tigers. And the Detroit Tigers, they say they got, it's a 3-team trade. The Tigers got David Price. The Rays got Drew Smiley. He's a left-handed pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. He bounced around from being the starter or relief pitcher coming out of the bullpen. And the Rays also got a very solid 18-year-old prospect. Is that word again? One of the Tigers, I think he's number 3 of all the Tigers prospects they have. I think he's number 3 on an infielder named Willie Adams. And he also got Nick Franklin, the shortstop from the Seattle Mariners. And see, the Tigers got David Price, and the Seattle Mariners got Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson, the center fielder for the Tigers, from the Tigers. So it's a 3-team trade, but the big name was David Price. And now the Tigers, man, I call it a 2-headed monster with Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. I call it a 2-headed monster. They already have 2 pitchers on their rotation who have Cy Young and MVP award. Now you add another. Justin Verlander won the Cy Young and MVP in 2011. David Price won the Cy Young in 2012. And Max Scherzer won the Cy Young in 2013. And now all 3 of these guys are on one team. Like, oh, man. I mean, the David Price trade may have just cemented the Detroit Tigers as the best team in baseball, or at least the best team in the American League. I mean, Oakland may have something to say about that, but man, I gotta call it a 3-headed monster. Now, I mean, me being a Tampa Bay Rays fan, I hate to see David Price go, but like I said, it's business, and with that trade happening now, it's like I mean, you need pitching in the postseason to win. And with those three guys, man, they are going to be tough. They are going to be tough. But you still got to go out there and compete. I think that trade just definitely put them over the hump. No doubt about it, man. Wow. I mean, but yeah, man, it was a good trade for the Tigers. I didn't know. The first people were saying that it was leaning towards quote unquote so-called experts. David Price was going to be traded to the Mariners. There was some talk about him going to the Dodgers for Matt Kemp. But one thing I know of being a Rays fan, we can't afford Matt Kemp. So I mean, I believe the Rays could have gotten a lot more in return for David Price. Actually trading a productive big league player for another big league player. Only thing with that is the Rays can only afford so much. We can't afford a Matt Kemp contract. There was talk about David Price being traded to the Marlins during the offseason for Giancarlo Stanton down in Miami with the Miami Marlins. But his contract is a little bit expensive, but once he becomes a free agent he's going to ask for a boatload of money. He deserves it. The guy's a pure power, pure power hitter. But the Rays can only, and it kind of, you have to know that it definitely hindered them somewhat when they were negotiating with other teams because they can only afford so much. I mean, there are some trades where a team may trade a guy with a big contract and they'll pay a part of his contract while the other team pay the rest. But even with the Rays, that's being one of the low-income teams in all of Major League Baseball. That's even a risk. So, but I think they could have gotten more, But they're still in the hunt. They're about 8.5, 9 games back of the AL East. It's not as strong as in years past. It seems as if the Baltimore Orioles. It seems as if they're the best team in the division. With the Orioles and the New York Yankees. Toronto Blue Jays, Tampa Bay Rays, and the Boston Red Sox. It seems as if the Orioles are going to win the division. They've kind of already separated themselves somewhat. I believe they're 4 or 5 games up on the Blue Jays and the Yankees. But they're still in the hunt for the wild card, on the outside looking in. So having Nick Franklin, they needed some infield help. They got Ben Zobrist and Logan Forsythe in the trade for the San Diego Padres. Things like that. So they got Nick Franklin. They got Drew Smiley. He can be. He's proven to be a number 4 or 5 guy in the rotation. He can pitch on the days David Price is supposed to be pitch, or they can put him in the bullpen. Things like that. He's got experience doing both. So, but they got what they could from David Price. It could have been more, but they did the best. I'm pretty sure Andrew Friedman. He's the president of the Tampa Bay Rays. He got the best deal he possibly could that he felt was right for the organization, and you can't argue with that. But yeah, I mean, so that's those 2 trades were the big key trades this year. Some huge trades. I mean, a guy who's won the Cy Young, another guy who was in the Cy Young hunt, All-Star, and John Lester. David Price won the Cy Young, and so John Lester was in the hunt before and has incredible postseason numbers. So, but yeah, man, there were also some other trades that were kind of under the radar, and and one of those trades was John Lackey was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals for Joe Kelly and Alan Craig. Alan Craig is a good RBI guy, and Joe Kelly has the potential to be a very good starting pitcher. I mean, just starting pitcher in the big leagues. He pitched against the Red Sox last year, in the World Series for the Cardinals. So the Cardinals, they're still in the hunt for the Central. They're competing and fighting with the Brewers and the Pirates. Cincinnati Reds, they're still right there in the hunt. So and they got pitching. We need pitching, and they got John Lackey, who's a very solid pitcher. He seems to pitch better in the postseason as well. And the Nationals, they got Asdrubal Cabrera from the Cleveland Indians, a very productive shortstop. He's made all kind of what they call web gems. All kind of, he's got a very. I think his glove is probably better than his bat, but he's productive. He's proven to be productive. And that's another one of those big league productive players who got traded for another big league player. The Yankees got Martin Prado from the D-backs. Prado, he can play all over the field. He can outfield, infield. Another proven guy. He can play all over the field. And then the Yankees, they're still in the hunt for the AL East and still in the hunt for the wild card. So it's not like they're making moves just because we're rebuilding, or we're just kind of giving up on this year. They're still in the hunt. And that's what that trade. That's what that trade is for. And they also this trade happened earlier in the season, but Chase Headley from the Padres, a third baseman. And they're looking for that cornerstone, that the hot corner, third base. A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, he was suspended with the PEDs and all that craziness that went on. He was suspended all year. So they were in Chase Headley. He's a productive with the glove and with the bat. So they've put together a pretty decent team, and I say they're still in the mix. They're definitely still in the mix for the division and the wild card. So you can't count them out. They're not known. Well, they've been known to spend boatloads of money in the past, but now that Steinbrenner has passed, I believe his son is taking over, and he doesn't want to spend as much money as the Yankees have done in the past. But the money's still there, no doubt, and they still have a pretty good team, pretty good lineup. They got Jacoby Ellsbury from the Red Sox from the free agency, so you can't, the Yankees can never count those guys out. Another one is Atlanta Braves got Emilio Bonifacio from the Cubs. The Braves have been looking for a leadoff guy. Bonifacio, he's a good leadoff, not great, but he's a solid, leadoff guy. Can get on base, steal bags, a good glove. If he gets on base with the Braves lineup, the Jason Haywards, Evan Gattis, they traded away. They traded the catcher away to the New York Yankees. They still got the first baseman Josh Freeman. Those guys can drive them in. You just got to get on base as a leadoff guy, and that's what they're looking for. So, I mean, and that was another good trade. The A's got Oakland A's traded for Jeff Samardzija earlier this year, a solid pitcher. Now they've added John Lester, so their rotation is playoff solid. And they got Jason Hamill in that trade as well. The Cubs got from Chicago Cubs, and they got Dan Straley and Addison Russell. And if you look at the Cubs, what they've done over the last few years via trades and through the draft, they've put together. It's all prospects now. It's prospects. These guys still got to show up and still got to pan out. But if you look at the prospects that they have, man, that the Cubs could be dominant in like 2016, 2017. Could be dominant. But they say once again they're prospects, so you never know. And during the off season, the Rays did a trade with the Padres where they got Logan Forsythe and a relief pitcher Brad Boxberger, and he's pitched very well this year for the Rays, very well. A good strikeout guy, good command guy, has the potential to be as a setup man next year, eighth inning setup man. Has that potential. No, with the Rays, even though I'm a Tampa Bay Rays fan, but the Rays, with the low income they have, low revenue team, they have to choose and make their moves wisely. They got to be very smart. It's challenging, but it makes you work hard and makes you compete more competitive team. I mean, that's what they've done. They have, I think, the most wins or the best win percentage since 2008, the World Series year. So, but yeah, that was the 2014 trades this year. Some pretty good trades. The David Price, John Lester with the trades that the big names and the big. You need pitching to win in the World Series. You need that, no doubt about it. you got to have pitching. You need good pitching, and that's what those two guys are, good pitchers. And so those were the trades that kind of surprising was the fact that I could say that the big league players, teams were trading big league players for the big league players and not prospects. And the fact that the Oakland A's, they traded away Yoenis Cespedes, a very good power bat, very good. But yeah, so that's the 2014 trade deadline. Some very good trades. Some productive players who proven themselves at the big league level. And but yeah, so it was a good trade, and we'll see now. October baseball comes around. Teams are still in the hunt for the wild card. Some good division races going on. The Milwaukee Brewers in the National League Central, they had kind of ran away with the division, but they've come back to earth. All the divisions are pretty tight. There's just so much parity right now in baseball that you don't know. you just don't know. And parity is good. Just give teams and fans, it gives them hope. One key injury away, and hey, it can put another team over the hump, surpass. A team that was in front of, or teams that was already in front of them. So I'm excited for 2014. The parity is what makes it exciting. You don't know. You don't know. But it's going to be a good year. I'm ready for October baseball, and ready to get it. I'm excited about the Oakland A's to see if trading Yoenis Cespedes is going to hurt them in any way. So I do believe they'll be in the postseason. I believe they'll go in as a division winner, which that'll give them home field, especially they have the best record in the American League. I'm excited to see if that's going to come back and bite them in the butt a little bit. And I can't wait for David Price and Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, for these three guys. I believe the Tigers they'll win the American League Central. I believe they'll win the division. To see these three guys pitch in the postseason, like, man, that's wow. 3 days in a row, these three guys are stepping out on the mound, pitcher's mound. Man, gonna be tough. But yeah, man, hey, that's why you got to play the game. You never know. I'm excited to see it, and we'll see what 2014 postseason. See who's raising the banner end of the year. But that's it for me, man. The real McCoy. I'm out. Peace.